the Maya and the lost language of the universe, symbols, codices, and sacred knowledge. Imagine for a moment that time fades away. Imagine walking through a Mayan city more than 1,000 years ago. The air still holds the dense heat of the day, mingled with the aroma of copal resin and damp earth. Smoke from bonfires rises slowly among the temples, drawing gray ribbons against a sky beginning to ignite with stars. In the distance, voices that sound like chants can be heard, footsteps on the limestone, the constant flow of water in the canals. But there is something that stops you in your tracks, something that vibrates in the silence of the plazas. The stones speak, the walls speak, the steps speak. Every inch of the structures seems alive, vibrating with an intention we can barely glimpse. Everything seems written in an architecture that is, in itself, a book open to infinity. And then a question arises that pursues us through the centuries. Did the Maya only write words, or were they trying to represent the very fabric of existence? Were those glyphs simple chronicles of kings, or were they maps to navigate between the visible and the invisible? Today we continue trying to understand their language, unraveling the code they left behind. Because for the Maya, writing was not simply recording information or archiving the past. It was a ritual act of participation in the sacred order of the cosmos. Their symbols appear on stelae that emerge from the jungle like sleeping giants, in Amati paper codices that hold the secrets of the stars, in observatories that gaze into the void, and on ceremonial objects that served as a bridge between worlds. For a long time, the Western perspective believed that those glyphs were merely decorative, strange figures without a clear phonetic order. But little by little, the veil began to lift. We began to understand that they were a sophisticated system, a technology of the spirit capable of to record names, dates, solar cycles, political events, royal genealogies, and astronomical observations with a precision that still amazes us today. Each Mayan symbol was not an isolated unit. Each glyph seemed to contain several overlapping layers of reality, sound, image, time, context. For the Mayan scribe, a word was not only heard, but also seen and felt in the flow of cyclical time. The Maya did not separate knowledge into watertight compartments as we do today. What we would divide into astronomy, history, spirituality, mathematics, and observation of the environment, for them formed part of the same universal conversation. A conversation where the movement of Venus in the sky had the same relevance as the birth of an heir or the planting of corn. Here is where an idea appears that challenges our linear logic. Some contemporary researchers have posed a different question, one that forces us to look with different eyes. What happens if certain ancient symbols do not were they designed not only to be read intellectually, but also to be contemplated with the soul? Researchers like Greg Braden have explored the profound relationship between these ancient symbols, human perception, and the patterns that govern the universe. Others, like Robert Edward Grant, have dedicated their studies to the mathematical connections between sacred geometry, the golden ratio, and the structures of ancient civilizations. Billy Carson often poses provocative questions about the possible levels of hidden symbolism in the art of these cultures, suggesting that there are coded messages for a future humanity. Matthias de Stefano explores the idea that various ancient centers, such as Mayan cities, may have functioned as nodes in a planetary cultural memory network, spaces designed to sustain a specific frequency of consciousness. And from a more introspective perspective, Elsa Ferris-Ruzenal invites us to observe these spaces not only as archaeological ruins, but as places of lived experience and inner transformation, where the geometry of the place interacts with our own internal geometry. It is true that these interpretations are not part of the traditional historical consensus of academia, but their value lies in the fact that they remind us of something fundamental that we have forgotten. We are still learning to see. We are still learning to listen to the whisper of the stones. Perhaps the question isn't whether the Maya had all the answers we seek in technology today. Perhaps the question is simpler and more profound. What questions did they leave for us to ponder? Imagine standing before a scribe priest, the A.J. Kuhun, guardian of the sacred books. He has no computers or digital libraries, only stone, pigments, time, and patient observation of the night sky. And yet, with these tools, he records cycles that span generations. He draws symbols strong enough to survive centuries of erosion and oblivion. And he leaves messages we are still trying to decipher. In many places throughout the ancient world, a similar idea emerged, that the universe is not separate, that we are not observers detached from creation, and that language could describe physical reality, but also help us remember our connection to it. Perhaps that is why, when observing a codex or a stela, some symbols still evoke something difficult to explain. It's not magic in a superstitious sense. It's an invitation to pause amidst the everyday noise, to observe the curves of the glyphs, the dance of the forms, to ask ourselves about our place in the cosmos. And perhaps there, in that silence where the mind pauses, one of the greatest legacies of the Mayan civilization appears. Their gift wasn't to leave us with definitive answers, but to remind us that there are still languages we haven't learned to hear, languages that speak of light, frequency, and harmony between the visible and the invisible. And perhaps, like them 1,000 years ago, we continue trying to translate the sky to find our own way back home. In the next episode, we will delve into their deepest stories, travel to meet their gods and original myths, and discover if these stories speak only of a remote past, or if they actually narrate the eternal odyssey of the human soul.